I think the things we do that are core to our brand, that are core to our success, are one, all the wines are one-offs. They're limited edition creations. We only make them once, but of them we can't, customers can't get them in stores. They have to buy them directly from us. And then once they're gone, they're gone. And so unlike a lot of wineries, there is legitimate scarcity in our offerings where it's like a sneaker drop. There's only so much of them. People line up to get them. They're stoked to be a part of the experience if they get them. And I think that is sort of fundamental part of why we're successful.
Welcome to the brndBrief podcast, where we have candid conversations with marketing leaders about the key strategies that are driving brand growth. This podcast is powered by Brand Method Media Group, and I'm your host, Kelly. Today's guest is Ed Fuchuck, General Manager at Tank Garage Winery. Tank Garage Winery produces limited production California wines and serves them from its vintage service locations in Napa Valley and Paso Robles. Welcome to the show, Ed.
Yeah. Stoked to be here.
Awesome. So let's kick it off by just getting level setting and understanding what falls under your purview as general manager at Tank Garage Winery. Where are you spending most of your time, and what's something people might be surprised that's on your plate?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's a great question. I'm the general manager, so I have my fingertips in kind of everything, and that changes day to day. But basically, I oversee the daily operations of our tasting rooms in Napa Valley and in Paso Robles, our marketing and sales initiatives, customer service, compliance, basically everything. We have an owner named James and Colleen who are pretty involved that do a bunch of different stuff. I mean, generally speaking, I work on a lot of different things, and every single day is a little bit different. So, some days I'll be doing, lots of spreadsheets and planning and forecasting or reporting. And then other days we're doing crazy stuff where we're renting a van and doing this like renegade photo shoot. So we're a small company, we're in like nitty gritty, and so I think everyone in our team is sort of down for anything. So the term general is probably a pretty good one because I do a lot of general stuff.
You mentioned being over sort of sales and marketing, which isn't uncommon, but as you know from being in this industry, the push to, ROI everything can impede on some of the marketing initiatives more creatives may want to do. What are you spending money on or putting resources behind for brand experience that you can't necessarily directly tie to sales? And how do you defend that investment?
That's a great question. And there's a great sort of mindset that Steve Jobs had, and he used to share this with Bob Iger and a bunch of the other kind of CEOs he was friendly with, which is, your brand is like a bank, and you are either putting deposits into the brand or you are doing withdrawals in the brand. And anytime you do something that's sort of substandard or doesn't hit or is lazy, you're taking a withdrawal for your brand. And so I think the way we look at it is we like to make deposits into our brand because the brand is the strongest thing here. And luckily, James, the guy who owns this company and founded it, and his idea, he has a marketing background, so he understands the value of brand above beyond just trackable, attributable return on investment. He understands that people are attracted to our company. They want to come visit here because we have a cool brand that stands for something that helps them identify a certain way. So when it comes to tracking ROI, we do definitely have things where we are doing this initiative, we have goals for it, this is what we expect to get back from it. But then there are other things that we just sort of, it's less of a science and it's more of an art. We think this is cool. We will likely never be able to fully measure the impact of this, but we know from having done this for over a decade that when we make these deposits into our brand, at some point they're going to come back to pay off, and they'll kind of help out everything. So luckily, I'm in a position where it doesn't take a lot of convincing to hey, this is cool. I can't promise we're going to get a direct return on investment on this, but we think it's right for the brand. We think it will have a big impact on what we do, and we think that will benefit us down the line, and sort of success will shake out of the trees. I'll give you a good example of that. We did this wine for Black Friday called Black Market. historically for Black Friday, this is when brands, especially wineries, will be, big discounts on stuff. And we're like, we don't want to do that anymore because it's devaluing our brand. We want to do something cool. So we decided to individually spray paint a bunch of these bottles, and it took forever, and it was a big pain in the ass, and we'll never make our money back from it. But through that initiative, like, we put it out there, it blew up. Everyone was super stoked about it. People started talking about it on LinkedIn and social media, and maybe how you found me. That made a huge deposit into our brand. So now people are talking about Tank Garage Winery. Eventually that will trickle down. They'll come here to our tasting room in Calistoga or down in Paso Robles. They'll join our club. They'll buy our wines. They'll tell their friends because they're the winery that does cool shit. And so that's kind of how we look at things. It's not everything can be kind of itemized on a spreadsheet.
No, I totally agree. I think, especially as we move forward with, AI and so much in automation, I think brand is going to come out on top. I know that's probably cliche to say, but I think having a clear brand and sometimes doing initiatives that are just for brand is what will differentiate certain companies from others, especially if it's a very saturated market. So I totally understand that.
Yeah, us too.
If you could keep 3 marketing activities for Tank Garage Winery and had to kill everything else, which 3 would you choose and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'd say fundamentally, we are in the practice of standing out versus fitting in. And so the things that have helped us stand out the most are probably not the things like, oh, we'd keep SMS marketing or we'd want to, have email automations. It's not that sort of thing. I think the things we do that are core to our brand, that are core to our success, one, all the wines are one-offs. They're limited edition creations. We only make them once, but of them we can't. Customers can't get them in stores. They have to buy them directly from us, and then once they're gone, they're gone. And so, unlike a lot of wineries, there is legitimate scarcity in our offerings where it's like a sneaker drop. There's only so much of them. People line up to get them. They're stoked to be a part of the experience if they get them. And I think that is sort of fundamental part of why we're successful. The next strategy or thing I'd keep is probably what we just talked about, which isn't this dogmatic adherence to like direct marketing. And so you go on lots of wineries websites or lots of CPG brands websites right now, and you'll wait half a second, and then you'll just get assaulted with pop-ups and spinning wheels, and they want your phone number, and you get 10% off if you give them your email address. And we don't think that's a cool customer experience, and I think that's an example of making short-sighted decisions because you have these very siloed goals, which is we want to collect contact information, and then we want to send them these crappy automated emails, and then they're going to buy because they're stupid, right? And we don't look at our customers that way. We're like, they're cool, they have taste, we want to be respectful of them. We will oftentimes exercise restraint in implementing those sort of things. I'm not saying we don't do them, we would never do them, but we're not all in on direct marketing tactics just because it solves some sort of short-term funnel decision.
That's awesome.
And then I guess lastly is this, the thing we're known for is experimenting and taking risks. And so the second people start doing the same things we do, we're no longer innovating, we're no longer trend setting. So we just keep pushing forward. We have this awesome David Bowie quote that we always talk about, which is, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I promise it won't be boring. And so that forces us to reinvent ourselves and try new things. And sometimes they don't work, or sometimes they kind of work and we learn something that we can apply to a future product or experience. But we like to take risks. We like to experiment. We like to break outside of our comfort zone. And I think that helps keep the brand fresh and exciting. I think it's part of our promise and our commitment to our customers, which is you come along this ride with us, and we're going to take you to different places you may have not expected. And so as long as we take risks and push forward, we will be trendsetters and not, blueprint followers. Those are my 3 things.
I love that. I mean, it sounds like, it's more than just lip service in terms of customer experience. You guys are really, really keeping a focus on, okay, this is what we're proposing, but how does it impact the experience? And maybe we don't try it as long, or maybe we do it, or maybe we don't. People throw out customer experience and they don't usually back it up. It's just like the financial goal or the overarching business goal usually takes precedent. And they're like, well, if the experience gets a little wonky, then, oh, well, like this has to be, you guys seem to really have the experience at the forefront.
Yeah, we like to think so, and I'm not saying we're perfect by any means, but one of the benefits of being like a family-owned company is we do have financial constraints, and we have to hit goals, and we have to pay for stuff. But it's not this thing where it forces us to make these really short-sighted decisions because if you're a publicly traded company, you're living quarter to quarter, and you have to get return on the investors' investment for them, and so you're making these decisions that may have negative long-term impacts. We aren't constrained by that necessarily, which is a great thing to have.
That's gotta be amazing. I love that. I've been on both sides of that coin and it can get a little wonky.
Yeah.
Are you all currently using AI in your marketing? If so, how?
It's a great question. Yeah, I think the way we've embraced AI is sort of we just incorporated it into our workflow, but we're still big believers that real creativity comes from humans. And the thing I see most that I think is frustrating me as not even a marketer, but as a consumer is I'll open my email every morning and then I'll have a bunch of these emails and I'll look at their subject lines and I can tell that somebody used a large language model to generate them and perhaps they don't care, perhaps their large language model isn't trained well, but they're just sort of generic and bad. They lack soul and substance. They're risk adverse. They're not doing things that are unique and creative. They're doing things that they are, we believe these buzzwords will convert with people. And I think the more marketers do that, the more desensitized consumers will get to it, which is everyone's using AI now. Everyone's using ChatGPT right now. They all know how to generate text. So text has become somewhat less valuable because I think a lot of people just assume, hey, it's probably just generated from a machine. So we're trying not to do that because we don't want to just put out like quote unquote AI slop. So the ways we will use AI in a lot of instances are to help extend capabilities we don't have here. So like for that black market drop we talked about, to get the wine, you had to go to this part of our website and this really cinematic video pops up and it's this frantic, chaotic thing. And at the end, there's a special code hidden in it. And if you get that code and you put it in a box, it will give you access to purchase the wine. And so those are things where it's like historically we'd be like, we have to go hire web developers and we have to do this, but we can sort of vibe code our way into doing it ourselves now, which makes us able to experiment and try new things and come up with ideas much quicker and better. And we may have to get a developer involved, but we can at least say, here's kind of the proof of concept. So I think we use it a lot for ideating, for rounding out ideas. Obviously sometimes it's like, hey, we have this photo, we need to extend the background. We'll, use something to do that. But I think we like to pride ourselves in being like vintage and retro and analog, and by doing that it's like no, we still need human touches on these things. Still need personalities. We still need to keep it a little weird, and I think with AI sometimes that can be challenging to do, but we've definitely incorporated it into our life. And obviously there's other things too, which is we have this data, crunch these numbers for us. That's a good quality of life improvement. We're still creatively driven by humans.
Awesome. All right. And what are you working on next that you're super excited about with Tank Garage Winery?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we're always working on a million things. We move pretty fast and break things, as Mark Zuckerberg used to say. We got a bunch of cool stuff in the pipeline for 2026. I think one of our initiatives this year is that we need to continue to stand out and do things differently, because when we do those things, those are the things that have driven growth for us in the past. Those are the things that have helped make our brand successful during these difficult times within the wine industry. And so our challenge is to continue to do weird, creative, cool stuff that no one else in the wine industry is doing, because we'll have our own little blue ocean to sail in. And so we have lots of things I probably can't announce. There's stuff we're filming today that you'll probably see in a couple weeks or a couple months that will be exciting. So there's never a dull moment here at Tank.
It doesn't sound like it, and I love that for you guys. All right, well, that's going to wrap today's show. Thank you to our incredible guest, Ed Fuchuck, General Manager at Tank Garage Winery. We'll have contact information for Tank Garage Winery in the show notes for anyone interested in learning more. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. We'll see you next time.